basically, there are about 624 acres here at Arlington. The original mansion, estate, plantation of General Lee and Mary Custis, his wife, was about over 1,000 acres. They are rapidly running out of room. Kind of sad. There's over 400,000 people buried here, and there are 70 sections, and they are filling up section 60 right now with the Iraqi and Afghanistan war veterans. People have asked, are spouses allowed to be buried with their loved ones? The answer is yes. They actually stack the burials. So you'll see on the front of the headstone is the service person, whether it's male or female, and then the spouse is on the back side of the marker. All the markers are identical. About 20 years ago, they used to allow families to purchase their own headstones, and people were getting a little carried away, and we'll see some of them as we make the next right turn. Some are very large, and then they realize it's taking up too much room. This section on your left is section 60. So in the back side of the section is where the Afghan and Iraqi war veterans are being buried. Straight ahead is the Air Force Memorial, and because the cemetery is running out of room, they are trying to acquire all the land that's possible surrounding the cemetery. So eventually that Air Force Memorial is going to be sitting inside of Arlington Cemetery. They've already purchased the property around it. I just don't know, we all don't know how they're going to do it because there's a regular county road that goes through there right now. So there's quite a bit of logistics to follow. The original property, as I said, used to belong to the Lee family. Actually, Lee married into the family. It was Mary Custis, which was the step-granddaughter of George Washington. Anyway, back during the onset of the Civil War, Lee fought for the South, so they vacated the estate, about 1,200 acres, in lieu of being arrested for treason. The government seized the property, and they claimed it was because they didn't pay taxes on it, because back then you had to pay tax in person. And due to the fact that they weren't going to come back and pay taxes, because then he would be arrested, the government started burying the Civil War, Northern Civil War soldiers around Mrs. Lee's Rose Garden, is what they said. And then eventually it just became such a large cemetery that many generations later, the Lee family tried to sue the government for wrongful taking of the property, and they settled for $150,000, which I guess back then was about $150 million. These markers on the left, there's no one actually buried here on the hillside. They're very close together. They call those in memory of markers. Those are for people that have been declared deceased, but there were no remains to be recovered, just like these markers on your left here as well. Astronaut John Glenn was recently buried here last year. We'll pass that marker. They're all identical. There might be flowers on it, and they just dedicated 2 weeks ago, we're going to pass it, a new memorial marker for Vietnam War helicopter pilots that served in action, and it's kind of neat. And I'll point that out as well. Audie Murphy's grave site will be to your left when we start emptying the bus where I stop, meaning where I stop and you guys get off, and you can certainly walk over there and take some photos of his marker. There's a little walkway that goes around a big oak tree, and I'll point that out. So off to your right, this is with the reef. I was with Central Missouri 2 days ago, and they laid that reef there for the helicopter pilots. John Glenn is just off by that little tree. There were no flowers at his site. The changing of the guard actually takes place to the right of this big giant pavilion, and you'll walk around and make sure you're set up a good 10 minutes, 5 minutes beforehand. They change the guard every half hour during the summer months. Audie Murphy's to your left around that little walkway. So this is where I'm going to be stopping, dropping everybody off. Make sure your phones are on vibrate or turned off.
Forward. Out. 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 All out. Reset. Out. Order. Out.